Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll start with the approval minutes. I'd like to make a motion to approve them from the December 16th, 2024 meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're gonna wait. Okay. All right, if I were to just take a little time out until our lawyer gets here.
Village attorney should be here in a moment. See, Hi, Jeff.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
All right, well, we'll start with old business additions and renovations. 119 Sand Dune Court.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Lappy, the architect, for Ms. Cross, for the last time we left, we were asked to do four things. Provide you with some information and some clarification. The first was we had to see if you could possibly see if you had record. And that's part of your package. The second request was that because we detected the use of some of the phrase, south, which we have done. Last time we met, raising it to 5%, and cut it down to 22%, as you can, which include small. And there's if you want to see the glazing history, it's on sheet AO12. We'll involve in the other market. And combined with the window, you also asked us to leave out the window templates. We're going with the teacher class and the sample in front of you there. You talked about potentially possibly potential. We'll be using that as it's a sun arc laser, which is what you see in front of you. And with clothing has a 70% reduction in light visibility. Which is nice drop in light. And in fact, if we were to take that glazing on the south side and extrapolate that for regular glazing, regular clear glass, we'd be down to 15, we would be down to 15% of transparency using this glazing. So it's very, that 30% somewhat is really gonna go a long way helping have not be. And the last question you had, you'd asked us to provide us with some samples of some exterior products, which, and we have the glazer there. Yeah, the sample you're looking at there is for the windows and doors. And then we have a sample of them in a second. And Melissa, I'm sorry, Melanie, from Central tonight is going to give you that presentation. Exactly here.
Could you go into colors?
Oh, sure. Well, Melanie,
You might be able to speak a little bit more into those. The product for the wood siding is 100% FSC certified. It's from the company Delta, Akoya, and it's a tongue groove material that would be applied. It's pre-finished, so it's low maintenance, and the neighbors don't also have to go through the silvering process when the house is then finished built on site.
Could I ask you to introduce yourself?
Sure, Melanie from Pembroke and Ives.
I'm sorry, from you.
Pembroke and Ives. And then that small silver sample is the window and door flashing. That is a hard aluminum finish with the texture is called hard emery and for the color. And then we also have here below front of the podium a large textured sample. It's a stucco. There's two sides. One is 100% sealed with a matte finish, and the side that appears a little bit brighter white is unsealed. We're proceeding to plan with the taupe sealed matte, so it has longevity and withstands exterior elements. This would be applied to the plinth, the base of the structure. You can see it in the renderings.
Excellent, thank you. Anyone have any initial thoughts? No, just asking.
The stucco's to the left, that's the color?
It would be left, it's a taupe color, yes, over here, very light. Pairs nicely with the selected wood siding, which is similar to the existing house color as well.
Sorry, it's the left or the right side?
Right.
Okay, so the shinier one.
Yes, that's a finish on it.
It is considered a matte finish.
Okay.
Yes.
What is the plan for the lighting underneath the base of the house for the parking structure is? In the rendering, it looks bright, but I'm just wondering how long those lights, are they always on? Are they motion censored, or do we know?
I think right now, they're all recessed lights, so they're all beautiful. I have not fear that there are timers or not. Soon they wouldn't be on the door side. Obviously, there were three lights that the front door could be on this.
Just some bright shading on. Maybe some resident rolls.
I think you got a certain sort of safety egress and stuff for down there. It certainly wouldn't have any upward emission.
I feel like it looks like it's a lot. Look at that.
John, is there a safety scenario in the lighting? Just feel like
There is an entrance there that has a door which would require egress lights. We really don't know if all of those lights are there for anything other than to make the house look lit.
Right.
It is approaching what we would call wall washing. which is not permitted by our code. Each one of those lights will be limited to a certain number of lumens, no matter how many bulbs are in the fixture, the whole fixture itself is limited. So it's kind of your call. They only leave the light by the door that goes into the entrance way.
You're gonna have to see, so you don't drive into the wall, obviously, when you're parking. But is that something maybe we could reduce or just make just on the level of safety instead of sort of, it looks a little bit, it's gonna lift off.
Well, we're following the bill, get it to the lighting. So
Okay.
I don't know if the
All right, well, maybe the renderings,
do that,
Right.
yeah.
John, how do we confirm, I mean, you're gonna confirm for your inspection, right?
It also has to fit anything other than the egress light. All that other lighting has to fit within the lighting code, chapter 119 of the village, and all has to be accounted for.
Correct.
In fact, we could even put lumens on lighting points that would something on the city.
Yeah, that will be part of the lighting schedule.
How does everyone feel about the glazing reductions? You definitely made an effort to reduce it, which is nice. It's just hard to kind of look back at it again. It still feels like a lot, but I
The
realize.
doors feel like a lot, because it's all the way.
We started at 33.
Yeah.
And we have been steadily going down. I think you find that Pinley is gonna be a big factor in how you do that.
But it's just because they're all in one place. What's behind all the doors on that floor plan, wise?
On the first floor, the first level, it's bedroom. The second level, it's living room and living area per se. And then that she has a bedroom.
Even though I'd say it feels like it doesn't have to have all four distilling doors there, but yeah, percentage wise, I don't know, we don't really have a percentage, it's not really the.
You know,
More. Yeah, it's.
I mean, efforts have been taken to mitigate the light pollution through overhangs and everything else, more so on the south side than the northwest perspective.
And just to remind you all, I've gone through this before, but the code speaks about mitigating light pollution in the context of light pollution or light extrusion onto adjacent roadways, bothering neighbors. So we need to look more so than just the amount of the glass, but what mitigating factors that we have here.
That's it, the first floor, we'll go set that in on, let's see, that goes to reset, second floor, reset onto the, I know.
Oh, that's nice. That's the only thing.
is there a way to find out how close the neighbors are exactly?
Ron, sir.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's on the scene, so.
Yeah.
So, one point, one.
P11.
That'd be, there are two.
Are we guys to pull up the Google map area? Okay.
So it's reports like scrolls and they do letters of support to neighbors, so.
We have
And those are all bedrooms, so realistically at night, like the curtains are gonna be drawn, it's not gonna be bright light to give privacy. So at nighttime, if anything, it's actually double.
Where is the letter of support from the neighbor? We see that right here.
They were submitted with the first application when actually glazing was even higher, and so we've been consistently in touch with them, and if you need an updated one, we're happy to provide it, but if they were happy at 33%, I'm sure at 15%.
Okay.
It's a wall box.
Thank you. Sorry, so that's the. Neighborhood. There's no neighbor. They do so work.
What are we concerned about?
We're just looking at the proximity of any other parcels.
Yeah, just the general feeling of the reach of the glow of the house.
We submitted a light study, if I may, previously that showed the average light emissions for all the other houses and where it ended up, and so now we're actually significantly below even the average for the neighborhood.
Okay.
I think the average is at about 30%, so we were slightly above that at our first submission, but we've made tremendous efforts.
And was that your direct neighbors or just generally in the area?
I think Brian can speak more to that, but I think we.
How did you do that? How did you?
Doing court.
Yeah, we did.
How did you analyze that?
Oh, I believe Sabrina from InterScience had foiled all the plans from all
Yeah.
the houses.
And all the submissions that have been approved for their lighting plan, so it was consistent, it wasn't like our own data.
Right, great. Okay, thank you.
And it is in one of the prior hearings as
Yeah.
well, so.
Okay, I think, yeah, I would love to revisit that. I think generally though, 30, I think we're trying to make a move down from that, and which you guys have done. So I'm not saying you aren't in the same arena right now. I'm just trying to think towards the future of a general percentage we feel comfortable with, so.
And the percentage that you're basing it, the square footage is including unlivable space, the garage, correct? Is that how you're?
It's based on floor, it's based on wall floor, it's based on wall.
Are we still talking about glass and lighting?
Yeah,
Because there's no, as you're aware, there's no hard and fast percentage in the code. And
Right.
everything you have to put in there would have to come from the trustees.
There is not, I think,
It's only way of. Aaron.
yes, and it's just a baseline in my brain of kind of how I'm feeling about it. Obviously, it depends on every single application, where it is.
I feel like it's empirically approaching the maximum, but they've done quite a bit to limit it. Sort of everything off the top and overhangs, and even these lateral things sort of reduced quite a bit. So I think that really seen also in the low glaze. And the self-correction of the first floor, but I think that at least.
So what we have for the analysis, the computer science is the roof decks
Second floor deck, neighborhood analysis. That's from Interesting, is that what you want? I don't see any reason.
This is what I had brought this is the neighboring houses,
This is,
this
this is the roof decks.
Yeah, but I
So we
have.
don't need to be, because of the lighting.
No, no percent.
We did it based on
the
glazing study. So it's used for
This roof decks and
These are just roof decks in general size.
So it seems.
Okay, so we'll get out some way to look things understand it.
So what seems to be.
So just to ask a question about the glazing percentages.
Mhm.
So this 22% glazing on the south front elevation, right?
Yeah.
I think what was said before was just trying to understand that the percentage is also calculating this,
An unlivable space.
it's gonna bring the percentage down, right? Just curious if you know what it is just on the frontage here without,
Well, it's, this we've always done it here. It's like, part of the second part.
well, because here we have to lift the house, so
It's
the
the
point
ratio wall
is,
area to, the ratio wall area to classic.
Well, are you considering these round
right,
columns,
They
wall
are.
area?
yeah, they are. So see them. So just because this is a raised, it's a little
It's
different.
the same.
Just to put everything back into
That's
perspective.
so I
So
understand.
what is our concern though? What is it, sky glow?
I think it
Is
feels like it's gonna have a lot more light emission than we're used to.
Yeah, the light box
This
feeling that
box.
some modern homes can have, or even a traditional home with a lot of windows. And at nighttime, when all the lights are on in the house and there's people all around, it's bothersome.
So
And I think just
which
because-
side of the house are we
The south,
talking
the
about?
south.
And is that faces the street, correct?
It faces the street and then eventually
What?
the ocean, what's there? What's
I thought it was our sand.
I think we're just trying to
It's-
understand, because when we look at the percentage, we don't use it as, you know, as a number to judge, but it just gives us a perspective that we've seen over and over. So I think we were just trying to understand why I was looking like more than the percentage seems to say. And then I think that's where we just figured out, and we're just trying to understand it. That maybe that's because this percentage is including the underneath garage lift, you know. So, which is a little different than the way we normally look at it, because normally this is at grade. We haven't had a lot that are raised and then have this calculation.
So we have the two concerns, we have neighboring properties and we have light extrusion onto the right of way, the road. So we have in the file letters of the neighbor in support, and that was, correct me, that was for a larger set of windows. So we need to look at things in terms of light extrusion onto the roadway, is that our concern?
Well, imagine you're taking a walk in the evening with your dog and you want to look up and see the stars with the light that's coming out
Yeah.
this way. It's murder, you know, I know, let's just say you're in the hot tub in your backyard and you wanna look up at the stars and there's, you know, kind of some glow from around here, it makes it much more difficult to experience that. That's the.
Basically, this sort of this grade, all this is included. This is making these numbers. It's a little tricky.
Just a question, I mean, Mr. Wisman mentioned earlier, we have our own zoning code provisions as to the lighting, everything needs to be at least a 45-degree angle, correct?
It's not really about that, my issue, and I'm just speaking from experience, right, I have a neighbor that when they're not here, their lights are still on for safety reasons. And they're, you know, inside their foyer and on the garage, and it's inside the house, so it's not, it's just because the lights are on inside the house, and it does affect your ability to see them.
And to your question before, where you said what's on the other side, so the side that's facing that's the row houses that are on the beach. So those houses in general are set up towards the ocean since they're in that.
Yeah, sure.
Backwards there as well.
Mhm.
And it's not really shown in the rendering, but we're gonna be working with LaGuardia Landscaping. And so the thought is to have landscaping in the front, so if you're actually from the road looking up, a lot of the house actually would be blocked by bushes, trees over time, which will help with that as well. And then sand dune here, everyone's probably aware, but just in case not, it's a dead end, so there's actually not as many people coming and walking through.
Yeah.
Just because there's only a few houses and then there's a dead end area.
That's fine, thank you. Would it be all right to ask you to recalculate the glazing that excludes the columns underneath?
What if they were willing to put a,
But there's house, the entrance house is there, and the garage, and there's, so it's really, it's still part of the house. And that's how we've always thought to do it. In my mind,
There's no,
what if they were willing to put more solid railing plus? Yeah.
right, just put it, yeah, I don't know.
It's that gives them the same glazing, but mitigates the.
Also, I mean, yes, maybe, look, this is, you know, when you're talking about, just looking at the scene, right?
Yeah, sure.
So I mean, this is not. It's not unsubstantial, it's not a blockage or anything, right? I mean,
It helps.
it's something, this blocks out 30%, I mean, that's pretty significant amount of glazing that, honestly, a couple of, it's a vision, newer technology allows this.
So would it be okay to do that, just so we understand what it is?
There's on the previous set from the last submission, I have a sheet. Sean, what's asked me to calculate, but I since pulled it off of some plans, because we weren't using those numbers. The packet, is it possible to open up the previous set from the last submission?
Just so we know who's talking for the record, you guys are, if you wouldn't mind just.
I'm Brian, John Lavender.
Thank you,
And then row that homeowners.
thank you.
Oh, no, how to Yeah. with the light.
Would you be willing to entertain a more solid or louvered railing on the bedroom floor going across? That'd be a way of reducing it.
In one of the previous meetings, I think it was requested by the board that we not proceed with the glass railing, so we stuck with the original type of railing that was currently in the existing house design.
That was asked for by the CBA.
CBA.
Yeah.
But I think we're not asking for a glass railing, I think he was saying maybe a thicker louvered railing that would block a little bit more of the wall to ceiling windows.
I think one of the images that's helpful to pull up also is if you look at the side by side transition from what the house is right now to what we're proposing, and what's largely driving this entire project is that we're really trying to preserve a lot of history of the house. It was built by Barbara Nesky in the late 1960s, and we're trying to replicate as much of that as possible. So initially, we had proposed to actually just lift the house as is, but they then, through the process, had asked us to add basically an iteration to the east instead. And so the idea of keeping those in the railing is that it actually mirrors the way the house is right now, which I think is on page A, is it A04. So we basically, the genesis of the idea was just to take an extra segment from here and put it on the side after we couldn't make it too tall, which was originally the plan. And so I think that's really what we're trying to preserve most. And I think that that helps with the impression, but that's also how we ended up with the plinth feeling like more of a grounding material and substance.
It does look very much like the original house, you did a great job of that. I will say those doors, I think just the difference, you know, from my perspective, while still feeling like the architect's original overall vibe of the house and design of the house, those doors are much more sunken back. And there's like an eighth of them, you know, and I think you've added more because the house is now a lot wider. So the balance, I think, is important as the house gets wider, you know, to put more windows in. I just think, I know you've made some efforts to reduce it. And I think what we have to do is just look at it with a fresh set of eyes, even still with the reductions, right? And how it looks even with the reductions. So maybe we'll just take a little poll and see how everybody's feeling, if we want to go farther or to request to go farther. Or if we think everybody's comfortable where it is.
Is it helpful, John, because we've gone through now several hearings and really substantially made changes, talking from like first hearing where we were to today, because it's been, because we have heard this feedback in each meeting and we
I know.
take everything to heart, and so we've made a lot of changes as well. We're starting to point out, like really changing the architectural integrity of the house. How we go further, because we have that.
We have significant reduced on size, structure, latent structures. I mean, I'm talking generally throughout the process. Well, and then here and in the ZBA.
The sort of bedroom floor of the existing one sort of specifically has a program of 50% of each sort of section being glazing and then there being a seating area. So to knock off one pane or one window per section, you might not want that, but it wouldn't be a obviation from the architect's original plans, I don't think. I'm okay with it the way it is, but because you've definitely taken a lot of ways to mitigate the effects of the light without really reducing that much. Having said that, there's still not too obtrusive ways to reduce it further. So be constructive on that side if I'm voted, if everyone else has a different perspective.
And that's where we did look, we actually shrunk the size of those windows, but a lot is to try and have the same parallel structure on the floor above. Keeping those lines similar was really important there. And I can't emphasize enough, I mean, those are bedrooms, like there's like a 0% chance that someone's, if they're not sleeping there, the light's not on. If they are there, that they want to have light on full blast at night in their bedroom. Like, there's definitely like
Megan,
blinds drawn.
Yeah.
this is from October. I also just want to emphasize that I think, you know, we tried really hard through this meeting to prepare really deliberately and take the time to answer the 4 questions you left us with last time, which were really to address the ratio of glazing, which we've done even more so, I think, than initially in mind. Like we've added some walls to, as my husband just said, to each window bank so that the size of the overall windows was reduced. Also added that glazing, obviously that's not clear glass, to really mitigate the issues and also efficiency of the light. And then we also really were just kind of tasked with the samples. So we wanted to just focus on those, you know, we were left with just those 4 questions, and as opposed to rejiggering where the windows are, numbers of windows or walls, it was really just a question of how can we provide a glass sample that address the tinting measures. We also reduced those windows banks as an added extra effort, and then brought obviously the additional samples for the stucco and the wood, and did the nighttime renderings, which was the other request.
So what are the board reservations still? What questions are we looking at?
I just think regardless of the progress that's been made, when you look at it with a fresh eye, it's still a lot of windows to wall. And I think that you can see this from the beach at night. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, there's nothing in
You
the
walk on
code
the
that says
beach.
that the house needs to be invisible from the outside world. You know, our
I just think it would
considerations that
be
we have
less
to look
visible.
for, our considerations that we have to look for are, will it bother the neighbors and will it cause light extrusion onto the garden?
I think both. our group in this case, I'm being very honest.
Even with the
Even
tinted
with-
glass, the
Yes,
reduction that
that's-
we've had thus far.
Yes,
Applicant has provided letters from neighbors.
yes. Anyone, do you want to just vote and see how we feel? Emily, is there anything you'd like to
Yeah. I mean,
add?
I think I would like to see a little reduction. A little bit more reduction in the glazing from this, I mean, it's 3% from the last time, from October, right?
Yes.
Okay.
How much from the first one?
No, we're
No,
at
no,
20,
no,
our
no,
last
no,
emissions were
less than-
22 and now we're 15 with the reduction and the
Yes, that's
glazing.
right.
That's
Right.
Right, the glazing, we're
7%.
down to 15%.
I think she's looking at the south side, which is I think what we're most concerned with.
Those are the ones that we actually have the strongest letters of support that were submitted, so I'm happy to resubmit them, or I'm happy to read them to the board, but we have letters of support from the house directly across the street and then the other two that are also on the beach, so it's something we've worked really hard to build those relationships, talk to them about. I've sat in their offices and reviewed the plans in detail with them as well. And even at 33%, they had, their letters say they give us their full support.
So you have letters of support from where are we here?
3 of the houses on the south side of the street on the ocean that are directly across from us that would be most affected by the windows that we're talking about.
And those windows also benefit from that too.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And they're now more than half reduced from when they even still had our support. And then we also have additional letters from people who are on the block as well. 3 other additional letters of support as well.
I don't think anyone on this board is comfortable right now with the way that it is. So we're gonna throw some suggestions out there. We suggested adding in some thicker louvers on the first floor banister, upper banister. Alicia's asking for a percentage, to redo the percentage of glazing, not including the columns underneath the house, which would essentially be ground level if this were not a FEMA thing. And Emily's not comfortable, and I am not comfortable. So should I put it to a vote, or should we ask for these things and ask them to come back and adjourn?
I mean, let's, first, as applicant, do you have anything? And I understand not comfortable, we need to give something a little bit more specific than not comfortable, because even I'm a little lost here. Are we not comfortable with the potential for sky glow, or are we not comfortable with the amount of glass?
I'm not comfortable with the amount of glazing on the south side, to be very specific.
And the letters of support and the tinting that doesn't do it for you.
It unfortunately does not. I mean, I'm sure that the neighbors love the design. I don't know if they fully understand what the end result will be and that impact, which can't go backwards from there. I know for a fact that my kids leave their lights on in their bedrooms when they're not there, and many times if you ask them to do something, they're not going to, and so I think it's also a precedent for future modern homes and generally traditional homes that are large.
How many meetings have we heard this application on thus far?
I don't know, is there a limit? I don't think there was.
There isn't a limit, but you know, in all fairness, the applicant,
I want to be fair to the applicant, I totally
Can't have
understand.
it.
I've been through this process myself,
So 4 meetings.
so.
Yeah.
So 4 meetings.
Well, I'm gonna put it to a vote, and if it doesn't pass, then we're gonna come back with a few requests. How's that sound?
I would say let's do a straw poll first.
Okay, sure.
And then, because if we go to a vote, we would have to reopen a hearing again, if we deny it, to go forward with other amendments, if we so go that route. I really want to remind the board that we have 2 considerations when it comes to glass and to light trespass. Will it affect the public right of way, and will it affect the neighbors? And we've heard a lot of evidence today. We have tinting, we have a reduction from what we had before, we have letters of support from the neighbors. Is there anything that this board wants to know from me as counsel, from the applicant, from anyone that that will bring any sort of resolution to this?
No, I think the question that put it into more analytical terms, because while we can't rule on percentages, the applicant is using percentages to propose what they want, and has been using percentages all along and is using it as a way to say we've reduced from this percent to this percent to this percent. And I think just the board is looking at it from a perspective that you don't agree with, but that, let me just finish, but that is most of the modern houses that we look at, and to be fair, it's not about just these neighbors, it's about the entire Saginaw community. If you were at grade, we'd perceive it differently, and the percentage would probably be too high.
So it's a
So-
concentration of glass, sort of.
So what I think Emily brought this up originally, but I think that the board would feel more comfortable if the board understood on the south side what they think they're seeing, which is more glass than we would normally approve if it was a grade, because really you're having one basement window or one garage window here, right? And I know that you didn't want to do that because you're saying, well, that will give you the result that you want maybe, but I just think that's a simple thing that could maybe help, because the percentages are being touted as what the approval should be based on.
I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I'm going back to our two prongs. Is there a concern about neighbor? Is there a concern about the roadway? I'm just.
I feel the same.
I would say, you're asking, you're sort of.
I was asking something really simple because I thought it would help, but
I think that we can find it, but you're asking my client to do a different standard than what we've been done in every job I've done in second law. The lighting scheme is always based on.
I don't agree with that. I don't understand.
There's always been a wall to glass there. Well, there's no definition of what is a garage, a shed, or a closet. I mean, it's all one plane. I know you distribute that. That's why we're here. That's fine.
I think that's disingenuous to what you know is what I'm saying, so.
That's fair, and I mean, since there isn't a
I don't
percentage.
quite understand where.
Well, listen, since there isn't a percentage that is in
Right, there is no
stone,
percentage.
it's a general feeling, right? And I think we're all feeling a little uncomfortable, so why don't we do the straw poll and we will go from there. So, John?
Okay, again, I'm okay with it as it is. I do understand and appreciate their concerns, and I still think there are proactive ways to ameliorate their concerns within this. But as it, I'm okay with it. You've been sensitive with your immediate neighbors. Sand dune's a tough one because yes, it's a dog leg, so you're exposed. It's not, technically that means the public is your neighbors, but it's not really a seldom used road. So, I also appreciate the elevation, but then again, they were, they weren't grandfathered extra height because the FEMA raised. So then they're penalized for that, but then they can't use it as part of their overall coverage. I think is a tough situation. But that's my very long way of saying, I think without reducing the glazing, they've done quite a bit to reduce the negative effects of glazing.
Alright, so what will you about be?
My vote is to
Alright, come on.
I'd like to see a little bit more reduction in the glazing. I'd like to see what else you could do. But other than that, I think it's nice.
Will additional tinting meet that requirement?
Doesn't that affect your view looking out? Tinting?
Affect the light transmitting towards,
Yeah, but
seems to be
your
your concern.
The part that's so tough is like we've already made so many changes, like the house. Like it's hard to have the house actually be like an attractive house if we continue making more changes. We've done a lot so far to try and keep like architectural integrity and take the speed back. But then you start having a house that's not aligned, that's not parallel, that actually looks quite disjointed versus like the inspiration where we love the original design. Because of FEMA, we have to lift this house. We would have then been above the height limit in the area. So we were asked to move the top floor to the side, which we're trying to do. And do it in a way where like still an attractive house afterwards. It's really difficult. Because we've done a lot. Can't tell
reducing
you
one
how many
panel
hours we spent.
on the first floor, the bedroom floor, reducing one panel per bedroom would have no deleterious effects
I-
of the integrity of the architecture. Whether you want it or not is a very different story, and you're not bound by, full adherence to the original architecture. But
I'm gonna speak for myself here instead of the full team, having not had the, I think where we are is that it does feel a little bit like we have done everything we have asked at every meeting. We keep trying really hard to come back and put our best foot forward. If that's the answer, I can live with it. If that gets us through today and it's one last panel in each of those bottom floor bedrooms, I really am trying to do what's best by all of our neighbors. Hence, even the ones we don't have letters of support from, I've sent copies of the plans we've spoken to, you don't, knock on wood, have letters of opposition from them. Being a good neighbor matters a lot to me, and having good relationships with all of them. And in the community, I think you can see we've even reached out past just our end of our street to the farm that's across the street to make sure that it's not disruptive to them as well. There's a letter of support from them in there as well. I'm very sensitive and very much appreciate all you do to preserve this community. There aren't that many of these houses from this era that are being saved because it is so hard. It is so hard to preserve the character of the 1960s and 70s and what was accomplished in what was that mid-century era here that artists really were drawn to. A huge part of what artists were drawn to, and you can read in the literature, is the lighting of Sagaponack. It's because it's between two bodies of water and it has that beautiful reflection. It's hard to not take advantage of that, in part because of the windows and the history of having large floor-to-ceiling windows, because that's what the artists really were looking for, but still preserving the character of that style house. And so I absolutely hear you. We're doing our best to balance them. If it's one less panel in all the bedrooms and we can all go home today and say, yes, okay, but I really don't think that there's anything else, looking at the plans, and even we increased every single blade by 6 inches on each side to say okay, it's gonna break up the view in the living level, but we'll deal with the extra casing just so that we could get to that amount of wall space and keep the symmetry from the top and the bottom. I think we wanna get to the right answer of a house that looks beautiful for the neighborhood and the neighbors, while also really staying true to something that can be here for the next 200 years or 100 years and preserve a really important part of what is our collective history here.
This is the product of 4 years. We started on this 4 years ago,
Hello.
and the amount of feedback we've taken, iterations given.
I know, it's an exhausting process, I know, I've been through it myself and had to come back a few times, and it seems silly, except that you have to keep coming back like this, but I think what happens is we approve something just because people are in a rush, and 4 versus 6 times you come back, or however many it ends up being, this house is here for the next however long, right? So
I don't think that anybody could be accused of rushing at this point. We've had 4 meetings.
that's unnecessary. All right, so what's your vote?
I think that it would probably be helpful to the board, and I really appreciate what you just said. It was very eloquent. If we could ask to have one less of the windows on that floor and a committee of 2 could approve it,
That's what I was gonna say.
would that work?
Move to committee of 2.
I would be happy.
This is outside the historic district, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we can move to committee of 2.
I think that would sort of satisfy everything and be a better precedent for going forward as well, because as much as the support of the neighbors is great, sometimes they are very supportive until you put the house up, or in the middle of the process, they say things, so.
And with that or a solid railing, or a solid sort of knee wall over the bedroom floors across the whole thing, would that be less preferable?
Honestly, it's very helpful for me to see them in the renderings or drawings, so I'm happy to discuss with the committee of 2, either option.
That would reduce.
My suspicion is probably the railing keeps the symmetry more consistently, but maybe it'll look.
Oh, the wire rail, I agree personally.
No, I mean, maybe the solid railing will keep the symmetry better, maybe the solid wall will. I think it's the sort of thing we can get to the right answer on.
Okay.
I'm okay with
We'll
either.
leave it to you to decide what you guys are comfortable with, in an effort to reduce the glazing further. I think we could take Tony's suggestion of the railing. I would request that we have, and I hear you, John, that it is the whole south, wall ratio that we have to consider, but would you kindly exclude this? Thank you. And I will make a motion to move this to a committee of two.
But would it be a committee of two?
To review the new glazing effort, the new glazing on the south
Can that be a
side.
committee of two?
We can do that for committee too.
Okay.
Let's just do a committee too.
Okay, so, yes, John.
So I'm unfamiliar with the community too, I apologize.
So it's just in between, anytime in between, before the next meeting. Maybe Pat can explain how much lead time she needs for.
Depends on what we
You would
get.
submit the new renderings.
Yeah, we get your new submission, once we get it, I alert the board, the committee of two members, they'll take a look at what it is and
Get back to you as
whether
soon as
it's
possible.
approved or they have suggestions, well, yeah.
It's not a hearing, it's not a meeting.
And so it's when we've narrowed it down to
It's a meeting.
the execution of something that we sort of agreed on. Which I think would be the reduction of a panel of glass, would definitely do it, and the railing would be under full review.
Okay,
So just to clarify, sorry. So otherwise, we, just in our own internal process, can kind of plan to move ahead with it the way it is, with the exception of the south first floor window or railing to be addressed in a committee of two.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all.
Okay,
You have a motion?
I'll make a motion to move to committee of two.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for your patience. You.
Let's pray.
Yes, thank you. You want to help?
Yeah, Brian.
Brian.
Okay.
We'll move on to 151, no, sorry, 493 Sagaponic. Saginaw Street.
Good afternoon, good to see you all again. Arlington Casa, 860 Montauk Highway, Waterloo, New York, and the applicant. Mostly Brian is going to be doing the presentation today, but I'll briefly give an overview of what you're about to see.
This is easy.
As to where it is, so.
Sorry, we're going to seascape. We went from Sand Dune and we have 493 Sag Main Street next.
That's what I'm.
Seascape.
This is.
You have the wrong, we have the wrong, we have seascape drawings.
So while Pat's handing that out, since our last meeting, it was clear that the board wasn't in agreement with us on the direction we were heading with our design, due in large part to the parcels identification alongside and the traditional architecture. And we're sitting there. So we consulted with an architectural historian and preservationist and did essentially a complete redesign of the property, mirroring a lot of the architectural traits that we've already seen alongside the Street. So this is not a change to any element of the previous design. This is essentially a You will see, I'll let Brian discuss that. And be specific about the various elements that we believe this design addresses that were previously. I'll get talking to Brian.
Keep stalling.
Here it is. Presentation ready going. Looking at it for the 10th hour. Good evening, Brian Glassman, architect for 493 Saginaw Pond LLC. So as Carl mentioned, based on the, several hearings that we had in the past, the way I like to explain what we did is I deconstructed the entire house. We put it back together so that the program elements met what my client's expectations were for the internal spaces. But for the village of Sagaponic, it fits in with the, has a vernacular style architecture that blends in with the historic districts. So what you're seeing here is, just to get started. So just to get started on the overall, if you want to just go to the site for a second. A few things that were topics that we spoke about was the original front yard setback on the property. We were at roughly 128 feet from the front yard, or 100 feet from the front yard setback, and we're currently proposing to be at 128 feet. And that resulted in the us relocating the garage, which was one of the main topics, having the garage in the front yard. So we pushed the garage back. From originally at that 100-foot setback, 50 back to 150 feet. So now it's located, instead of being on the front yard in the front of the house, on the side yard. Some of the other things that I wanted to mention were the original design was a house that was maxed out at a width of 87 feet wide. We reduced that to 78 feet, which I had to do to get the garage doors on the north side of the property.
What page do you want, Brian?
Page 001 is the, if you want to go back to the site plan. Do the first. Right there, yeah, it doesn't have the exact dimensions, but you'll see the garage in the center of the house on the left-hand side, which is the north, versus the original, if you remember, it was all the way up front. And like I said, it was at a setback of 100 feet off the front yard. Now it's pushed back to 150 feet back, which is roughly 28 to 30 feet behind the front of the house. Also, the parking areas, we located them on the side of the house, and we do have two that are a little less formal on that, drive-by area. To meet the village requirements, we ended up needing 7 stalls. So the two in the front are well within the front yard setback, but it's not a formal placement as we originally had it, where everything was just in the front yard. So there's just 5 to the north, and then 2, maybe for guests. The grading in the front, we addressed this last time. We're not touching the grading from the street to the front of this house is not being touched at all, actually throughout the entire, going all the way through the depth of the house. The only transition is really between the pool and the back of the house. So I think that's another positive when it comes to removing,
Yeah, the topography is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And people know it and love it, and I think to change it would be disruption, so thank you.
yeah, so it's staying exactly where it's currently, as you see it today. Also, if Abby, if you want to go to the front rendering, just to kind of go through the architecture, where it's simple farmhouse structure with we have roof pitches on the upper, on the second story, which are 10 on 12, and I try to maintain that so it's consistent on all 4 elevations.
We did, we went back and forth on the front elevation with doing maybe a balcony, a little deck. We ended up choosing to go with this simple hip roof, which I think kind of doesn't really need it as a stately feeling. It's a little bit more subtle and subdued at the entrance. Also, the glazing for the overall project on all 4 elevations average out to 17.8%. We provided the lighting calculations with this submission. And just to kind of run through the materials, worked with the historical consultant and, running with the, we're gonna stick with the tapered sawn red cedar shingles on the roof. Gutters and leaders, we would be going with lead coated copper material, half round gutters and round leaders. Perfection siding, which would also be a red cedar, and all these wood products would be left natural. Chimneys, as I mentioned previous, we originally had stone, and we went with more of a traditional Danish blend brick. Windows are more of an ultimate, which is an aluminum clad, and that would be a gray. We saw a few samples in the village. Originally, we went from gray to white, and we saw a similar home, historical house that actually had the gray trim colors, which looked a little bit more elegant to my client versus using a white, like a stark white. Personally, I prefer that too. It makes it a little bit more subtle looking instead of popping. And if we had a white house with, white siding and black windows type of thing, I could see where it's too much, but I think with the red cedar, I think the gray, once it weathers, it complements it. PVC trim around the windows, column, that would all be a similar color to match all the windows. Oh, just to mention too, the windows, Marvin Ultimate, they're double hung, 8/8 or a 6/6, depending on the scale of the window. Columns, yeah, they're 12x12, chamfered corners to kind of reduce the massing size. I do want to state, it was something that I mentioned to my client brought up about the gable in the back half of where the garage, go to the other, not that side, the other side elevation over the garage door. You'll see that roof line and plate, actually we broke down the massing of it, so it seems a little bit more subtle compared to the front gable. To the left of the front door. Patios around the entire house are gonna be a bluestone product with the brick riser, or with a red brick, the Danish blend risers, similar to the chimney. And railings, going with a PVC product, and that would also be a gray. I think, look at that rendering, it looks like it might be wood, but it should be gray. Right there, it's gonna be all similar gray color to the columns and trim. And wall sconces, we're still going with a dark sky compliant product that we originally submitted that it's a gas unit, but they convert it to electric, and it has like a protective sort of has some townhouse. That's the present.
Gotta hand it to you, you did a great job.
I know.
You did, I feel you did a wonderful job of respecting vernacular, it's iconic.
Yeah.
Keeping it contemporary feeling and also giving it some charm while being, contemporary, trying to do all those things was tough. I think how you've reproportioned the mass of the house was brilliant and affects the street.
Traditional, but still looks special, still.
The biggest thing is I watch like cooking shows and they talk about deconstructing and putting, that's how I have to look at it. Like I can't just maneuver things, it just wasn't gonna work. So it's like I have to deconstruct everything that's there, put it all back, sketch it all out, make sure the proportions, clean, simple roof lines, that's how it came together, so.
I would be giving you a handshake now.
Yeah.
I love it.
I did too. You did a good job.
Thank
They're gonna paint my trim up, not bright white color.
you.
What is the color? Did you say the color?
It's like, I think we did like we're gonna go with a cadet gray, which is a standard Marvin color, and then, if we use a Benjamin Moore, Sherman Williams, they have a color that matches the they know what to do to match the window just because they're pre-finished. Versus doing a custom window color, which I've done that in the past too, but budget wise, usually it's like 20 or 30% more, so it adds up quickly, so I like that.
And the front door, is that a stain or?
It's gonna be a stained gray to just give it a little bit more texture for the entrance.
Okay, and is that the same stain that's on the garage doors? So I was gonna ask
Yes.
that's, do we know what that stain is?
No,
Okay. It looks great, I was just curious. And the inner triangle on the 3 windows on the top is the same color as cadet gray, right?
Yeah,
It's all the same.
Yep, all the trim, columns, that horizontal band is all gonna be the same color.
And that little bump out takes care of what was taken care of by the pitch of the roof. It's sort of bump out to the.
This is a whole different house, there's nothing.
Nothing.
The house doesn't exist in I had to sit down and mentally get over, I'm like, I just gotta remove things, I just started moving things around, and that's how it works, so. I like it because if you were to see the roof plan at some point, you're gonna see like clean, simple gable roof lines, if you look on the back, that gable proportion goes straight through.
Yeah.
And sometimes the simplicity of it actually makes it harder.
Yeah.
So to make that gable go all the way through, and as you know, like we can't have flat roofs, so there's certain elements that we had to make with the roof lines. The framer's gonna be happy, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Because this is like a nice clean and everything worked out pretty good.
But it seems like it has the additive process, you start, so you can get that size, but while it still seems like it's within the period.
Yeah, I like it, it's a 10 on 12 roof pitch, which I like, it's not too shallow,
Yeah.
so. And that's always the challenge with.
It's so hard.
homes. Yeah, I mean, if everyone's like, Brian, I want an 8-foot first floor, like, this is great, I can do a 12 pitch all day long, but can't do that with taller first floors.
I think, give as much as you've been here between the two houses, we could vote now, maybe just.
Yeah, Emily, how are you feeling?
I love it. I think it looks great. My only suggestion would be separating the windows on the front. Or maybe, I don't know, it's my own personal feeling.
We had an option actually to do that.
Just
And-
feels heavy,
Yeah, the biggest, having the dining room
right?
and then having, it's gonna be funny, it always looks like a smiley face when you do like the 2 spaced out windows and the one on the bottom.
Yeah,
So I just went straight down with it. I did have an option to show that because for the dining room, it is nice having that open, looking through. A little more proper, and I mean, I have it set up so the bedroom's all symmetrical there, and
or what about separate the window on the top?
yeah, that's where it looks like two
Oh,
eyes.
that's what-
It always
yeah.
looks like two
No, no,
eyeballs
I-
and smiley face. I felt like that element as the reverse gable is, ganged windows together, and then you have the structure to the right where you separate the 3 windows. Versus what I've done before where it's like multiple windows on the side, like where those 3 dormers are. If that was together, I would agree with you to like maybe split those up, but I think the balance of this is set up where the front door has a single window over it. And it kind of, that rhythm kind of breaks up the scale, and then you have the gable, which. I would-
It's,
Yeah.
what you've done is wonderful. That's just my small suggestion. So-
Yeah, typically we would do maybe 2 windows stacked up because it was the dining room downstairs. And I was looking at the square footage or the lighting, and I know that's something everyone's sensitive to obviously because of the last hearing, but I knew I was way under, so I was happy with it,
I have a smiley face and it's, oh wait, no, this is a smiley face.
Yeah.
Mine's cable too, so it even has eyebrows, it's.
And the guys in my office would like joke around with it too, and I'm like,
What's wrong with a smiley face on your house?
Well, no, the thing is that, yeah, it's just if we had like the 2 windows, I would have been great with it, just because there's a dining room down there, that's where. Normally, I would have just did, like I said, 2 windows, that would have been it, but the dining room, I think it's nice having the dining room with a little bit more open.
Yeah.
The other, and to your point, the last presentation, actually,
Right,
I had 4 windows,
right,
and they were taller.
yeah,
So I was
I
like,
mean,
just
I know.
in the gable, like,
It's- yes,
it worked
that's-
out good.
right. This isn't,
If I tried to put 4 like smaller windows in there, I'd be like, yeah, you're right, definitely maybe do doubles or
Yeah.
singles, but I think the balance of like the wall proportion all
No.
the way around,
Yeah.
I think it feels better.
I think you've done a very good job.
It's gonna be
Considering where
nice.
we
It's gonna be
were,
nice.
yeah. Nice
It's-
pat on the back.
Yeah, that's.
I really want to see it up and get it done, so.
All right, well, I guess we can, I'll make a motion to approve unless anybody has any further comments.
Second.
Agreed.
Nice, thank you. Thank you.
How about that, Brian? How about that?
Tell your friends we do approve.
What? What?
You can just slight break up. You can do ginger, and then.
What's this? Like this mixed up. That's.
We just saw.
Oh, that's what this is.
This is for
Oh,
Saturday.
I thought we were separate.
Okay.
We just closed application. So this is the last. Perfect, thank you.
But I'm just saying, like, because it's.
All right. And move on to 151 Seascape Lane. Definitely, Lori Fontana, McDonough and Conroy Architects. If we want to bring up the elevations. So on the last meeting, you indicated that you didn't like all the stairs, all the windows in the stairwell, so those were removed. And it is simplified with windows placed differently. You had asked for the outdoor light to be actually shown on the rendering. You also asked for the calculations between the slats of the rain screen, which I provided on the plan drawings. This side, there really wasn't any change except to add the calculations of the rain screen that's exposed. And then if we go to the next side, there were windows underneath the rain screen in the middle, which have all been removed in order to reduce the light. And the last elevation, nothing changed on that because there was really no comment on that. So if we look at the flat plans, sheet number 5 and 6. all of our light exposure is under 20%. You can say all, but every side is under 20%. The west side is 17.9%. I'm sorry, I can't see from over there. The north side is down to 11.8. The I did the west side, the east side is 19.93, and the south side is 15.7. Well, we care about most is the east elevation, so that's the one you see the sag made through the park. It's nice.
I didn't put the east elevation on less than 19 because you have the dark railings too.
Right, I didn't take out and I didn't add,
Yeah.
what the calculations I'm giving you doesn't take into consideration the film of 30 and 40%. This is not an upside down house.
Okay, so better just,
So the first floor is the first floor and the second floor is the bedroom that has the 40%. And the first floor has the 30% additional.
Did the color change or it's just?
No, it's exactly the same, it's literally the renderings, you should have the samples of the siding. And it's again, the high, pre-finished. The sample from another application, just to get our heads around the percentage that you're saying.
No, it's true. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like pick your face. That's what happened.
You are.
Emily, how do you feel?
I think it's very charming. I like it for what you can do with the size and everything. It's, I'm impressed. It's very unique.
But even more.
I think the amendment satisfied all my concerns. And with all restrictions, so very interesting how there's some oddly sudden.
Ours is just in a box.
Yeah,
But you've done so much.
but yeah.
But you've done so much.
No, but
It's
you've done
interesting.
it, yeah, you've done it really beautifully and interestingly, and thank you.
Thank you.
There's a furniture quality to it.
Yeah.
Nice way.
It feels like like a jewel,
Yeah. I agree.
a rough, you know. Sleek jewel, you know. But in a good way, yeah. Okay.
One bird got ball away from not knowing how to enter, but that's just me.
I didn't hear what you said.
It's not your problem.
One bird got ball from not knowing how to enter the house.
Fortunately.
The UPS counters.
And we are, just a reminder, we are on the flag lot as well.
Yeah.
And I do have, and you should have a copy of the letter from the only neighbor that we do have with their approval. Great. Well, I'll make a motion to approve unless anybody has any further comments.
No, I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
You already said. That's
Oh.
that's what I was gonna tell you.
Okay, good.
You're well for it.
I mean, it could have been so many other things, you know, but that's things. Oh.
Fix a pocket. Yeah, that's like I. Everyone has an awesome work.
I just. I realized when I grabbed it from you, I thought it was this, and it was that.
Anything you want, doesn't matter. Here's something I knew I had.
You gotta sign something and if you go on.
Is Rich Ferraris or somebody from Landscape by Renner here?
I'm here. This is Amanda from Landscaping by Renner. I'm able to attend via Zoom.
Thank you, Amanda.
Hi, I'm Mario Navera, and I'm the landscape architect in case you have a question as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, I don't wanna like.
Okay, we're ready, Old Barn Lane.
Should I start?
Yeah, I'll have you start, Mario, because you
Okay, thanks.
are the designer.
Thank you. Thanks for allowing us to come by Zoom. I'm the landscape architect for 83 Old Barn, and my client has purchased the property, but will not be building or constructing anything for quite some time, and really wanted the lot, the existing home to be demolished, and just to create a nice meadow to look at for the neighbors and neighborhood. So that's basically our proposal, is to remove the house and garage that's existing and to infill it with short fescue. We're going to maintain all the almost all the existing trees, like those large maples and spruces. The foundation planting won't be saved, but that will be replaced with the meadow. We're going to do some underbrush clearing behind the house and under the existing poplars, and we're adding some fencing just so that it's secure, which would be just split rail fencing with metal, wire, just for privacy security. There'll be the driveway will come in from the existing street and just have a couple of spaces to pull over for maintenance when they come and maintain the property. Let me know if you have any questions, or let Amanda know as well.
Can you just confirm the trees are there? You're leaving the trees?
Yes, in this image especially, there's these beautiful maple trees which we're keeping.
Just want to make sure I heard clearly.
Yes.
And can you clarify the fencing again?
It's wood split rail with just chicken wire, gauge wire, so that when you look at it, very bucolic and farm-like. The same kind of fencing follows the farm field on the other side, so we just thought we'd match it.
And do you have any information on the building to be demolished? When it was built? It looks like the school of Michael Graves, but not exactly him.
Oh, sure. I don't. I apologize. I don't have any information about the architecture of the building, but I think you can see it's probably an 80s building.
I'm just going to chime in.
Thank you.
I see that it was built in 1981. I was trying my best to dig in to see if there was any historic architectural significance with the designer, and I was unable to find any information, though it was prior to being purchased by our clients, owned by only a single individual, the estate of Mr. Mark Schwartz.
We make the decision ourselves, it's not difficult to merit.
Because it's not a historic district, we don't need that.
Okay.
No, and Pat provided me with all of the other items needed routinely for a demolition permit, and they all checked that.
Okay. With that in mind, wishing you were my neighbor,
Right. I wish I was the neighbor.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Emily, anything?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay, we'll make a motion to approve the demolition
I'll
of
second.
83 Old Burn Lane. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Move on to 7 Fairfield Pond Lane, Samudra Farms, LLC.
All right, I'm Alan Russo from the Killer Fund.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So, big picture, you folks saw the main house a year ago. And I approved in March of 2024. On that same property, there is a existing garage, an existing pool house. This application is to replat the existing garage, the existing pool house. In the materials you made us.
And currently, what kind of steel still?
So the pool house is clad in coated steel, the garage is clad in wood sometimes. And they'll both be reclad, with the new material, which we have a sample of, which is GFRC. We've been giving away pieces of our sample. If you remember it, it was this big.
Yeah.
Now it's this big, but this is the material. It'll be vertically oriented in both the structures that are used today. And the other real difference is we're going to put a green roof on top of the pool house, and the garage area is next to. That's really the story. There's renderings on page 9 and 10. Kind of show each side.
Sorry, I'm just curious because I might not have been here then. What was it before you had not included the garage and pool house? Was that what it was?
Right, those were the initial application for a year ago, didn't include any work to the existing garage.
Got it.
Yeah, so this is just, they're there now, this is just.
Got it. I'm a little confused.
Same thing.
That's the original house.
That says existing, oh, existing site use. This is the house, and now.
Yeah, so the main house is under construction.
This is just for the garage and the pool house, correct?
Correct.
Just
The
those two
application is
items.
just those two accessory structures.
Sorry, and they're just being reclad or
They're just being reclad.
Oh, okay.
Correct. So they exist.
I was
in
trying
the
to.
current configuration. Yeah, and you can see them in the area.
Oh. This, yeah.
Yeah.
This,
Pool house is
this,
sort of-
basically. Right. Well, I think the new direction is much nicer. I mean.
Also the quartet panels, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that might kill, well, the Cortez might kill you if you were to get too close to it.
When did you say this happened, the original main house was approved and?
March 2024.
It's nice to meet.
Any other complaints here?
Yeah, no complaints.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I told them to bring our shit out. Thank you guys. Yeah.
Thank you. All. Right, can you just do a favor for us?
I'm sorry.
On the 7th, Fairfield, come to the original, would you mind sharing with me the original application?
I have this is from when it's.
Oh, really? Oh my God. You are, wow.
So the way.
I keep like in my car, then
That was
every
smart.
year,
I'm
I
pretty-
it's almost do not have like a little one.
Okay, never
Maybe
mind
the
that.
newbie here because I decided I'm not gonna have all this paper.
You can.
That was like, this is the one I was pulling for you before. But it was a long one.
I feel like, Nick Martin, on the board, we had one from the beginning. Might have been the one that something.
No. Oh, wait.
Thank you, Jane. You guys put these here on the side?
I did.
Mhm. We looked custom one who told us. Oh. Be parallel with
It does not exceed.
This is about-
Doesn't hurt.
So they're not. It's 2 stories. You're not seeing
No, raised, right.
Yes.
So this is raised,
Figure out.
but it's raised, isn't it? It's raised.
And about.
Could be for something. This was existing, so this is a little different.
We have cities present these things of. Yes.
Where,
I think it's like 20 by.
are you here on 64 Sandy? Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you'd like to present, come on over. Sorry, we had you hanging out over there. Yes.
How's everyone?
Yeah, good things.
I'm Francisco Pregonese. I'm from Estudio Ramos. This is Salomé Echada from La Guardia Design. We're here to present the addition of a driveway gate to the existing permit. We're currently on the, closing to the finishing state of the house, hopefully for the summer. And we would like to present, as I said, the addition of a driveway gate to the driveway. And together with LaGuardia, we prepared a design that we feel very confident, and basically the idea was to conceal the gate from Sandling Court, which is it's not a very busy street, but still we want to hide it from the street. There is a rendering, if you go up, I think, or down, the next one. Yeah, that's precisely what we want to show. As you can see, the driveway it's basically impossible to be seen from the street, since it's recessed from the once you enter and turn into the property. And that's our main strategy, how to consider it and still have the gate and being able to close the house from the street. If you see the floor plan, you can have a better picture on the right. That one. Oh, no, the first one, sorry, the survey. Can you zoom in into that a little bit? So this is the rendering that we saw first, and the driveway is here. And it's going to be a sliding gate, so when it's open, it's going to be concealed within the plantings that we have proposed over here. So it's quite invisible from the street if you see from this angle. And also we have the presentation from LaGuardia somewhere, which is a nicer floor plan with all the plantings. Should be there.
You should have this little PDF. Francisco, I don't have the landscape plan.
Oh, but that's a floor plan. Everybody has it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so here you can see we work with the 40 feet setback from the property line and how far it's recessed as well from the side.
Yeah, I mean, it satisfies our issues and concerns, so. Fine. Yep. Nice landscape.
Thank you.
And I feel the design of the gate matches the side of the house.
Yes, there's a rendering also, if you like, we can discuss that. So there you see the siding of the house, which is western red cedar, which we are going to leave to age. And the way we propose the gate is going to be basically louvers, also made in cedar, that kind of give you privacy, but at the same time, I'm not entirely, I'm not see-through. So it's not that, such a weight on the use.
This is 15%?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is one of the types of renderings.
The height, what the height is, the gate?
4 feet.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because
It's pretty long too,
Straight,
so that
yeah.
helps you make it more
yeah, no, it's pretty.
sort of like landscape.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Take care.
Thanks.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our discussion of the front porches. And I just started by saying, I don't totally know how we're supposed to proceed, other than discussing it.
There's no particular,
The end goal is for us
Formula
to
that we need to follow.
recommend something.
we can have free-form discussion and ultimately anything that would require a change to the code or anything we want changed for the we have to make that recommendation before our trustees. Which if you'd like me to do it in writing, I can do that.
That's
As far as just the format of the conversation, we can just have a conversation about it.
I'm sorry, I may have missed the impetus. I was just wondering, can you just remind me, where was the proposal coming from? And then we're not actually, if we're just giving a recommendation, or
I believe the mayor.
To be honest, I can't remember the
I
genesis.
think Mayor Tillotson had brought up.
It's Michael Davis.
it was-
Michael Davis spoke. Yeah.
Well, different.
And it has to do with the, whether the porch would actually be part of the square footing for the house itself. I guess as of now it is, and he wants it not to be
But we're
because.
talking about one particular house, or
No.
no,
No,
now we're
just
saying
in
general.
In general.
But, sorry, I'm just trying to understand procedurally, because
So
it doesn't,
we would recommend to separate X amount of square footage or a range of square footage in proportion to the square footage of the house that would be allotted to either front, side, back, or just front. And once we come up with something that we all feel comfortable with, that would be easy for people to approve and not get taken advantage of, I think, then we would write that up, and then the zoning board would then like it or not like it, and then put it into the code.
so that all makes sense to me, that's.
I think it was specifically for.
I think I'm confused about something else, which I'm not giving any opinion, yay or nay, I just, so did Michael Davis just as a
He's a
participant,
concerned
as a,
architect for his clients.
okay,
Michael
said,
Davis came to a board meeting, trustees meeting,
okay,
and made the proposal that they should allow 4 more covered porch on a house or not counted at all. Because since the age of COVID, more and more people are outside, and he hates having to bring his cushions in to keep the dew off it. So the board of trustees kind of thought about it, and they said, well, we'll let the Ahrb weigh in on this, and they sort of more limited Michael Davis's original proposal from any covered porch anywhere on the property to just a front porch. Which is then when you had discussed this the last time, and said, well, what is a front porch? Is it where the front door is it the front property line?
Right.
If it's a flag lot, you get to elect your front yard.
right,
You know, so.
That's only one of the many ways to be gained.
how many feet was it?
Well, it could be a set number, like we have a 300 square foot exemption for pergolas, provided they meet the code. Or it could be like the roofed accessory structure code we have now, which is a percentage of what you're dwelling in. So you could say 100 feet, you could say 500 feet, you could say 2%. That's sort of all within your purview of what, if you think it's a good idea, to recommend to the board.
I might be trying to get a back porch variant at some point, so maybe I should recuse myself for clearing up. I wouldn't do it unless I thought it was like
But
that.
I think it's for fronts only.
That's what
Well,
we
it was
have.
the topic of conversation, but I guess it could, what would constitute a front porch, like the entrance of my house is on the side.
I'll throw some flagstone right around to where my back porch is.
Well, right, I'm not. I guess because I was thinking about it from a front porch perspective, I was just trying to understand what was the support or the idea behind front porch. Was it gathering, was it packages, was it, you know what I mean?
I think
It's the
that's-
front
it's
versus,
yeah.
whereas like, I don't really, I don't wanna go down this, but I don't think it's offensive to have, there are a lot of houses that in Cyclonic can have like one covered area but can't have another, or whatever because of our code. So I don't know, I just feel like it's a little strange to limit it to the front porch. It's almost like if you're gonna do it, but then that's opening a can of worms, I know, which is not my purview, but that's like, it just seems to me a little strange to say you can have some more coverage on the front porch and nowhere else.
Yeah, I think the idea is
All the
that.
board members agreed with you that this should extend to more than just the front porch. That is a suggestion you could make to the board as well. You're not limited.
I think part of the idea was to
I'm having a hard
limit,
time like,
part of limited to front porch was the idea that, the village wants traditional looking houses, a front porch is very traditional.
yes,
But then when people have to make a choice for a second.
Well, a
Just not-
good example would be the redesign from Brian Glazer earlier.
Right.
That home Could you imagine if that actually had a full flanking front porch, then stepping back to the main building? It would add a tremendous degree of character. to it. In particular, that design would lend itself to it.
100%.
Like Sag Main Street, down by Bridge Lane, example where the front porch makes the house.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing.
But
I
now
just,
But it's not a rush
But you-
decision either. Don't
Yeah.
feel that you're under pressure to come
Right.
to a conclusion.
I guess that's what I was trying to say, where it was coming
question is,
from
yeah.
and what,
And should there be a special place in heaven for a front porch owner, essentially?
Well, I guess my concern, can you see into the future of how this might or might not be abused or taken advantage
Well, I
of.
think that was the original, we made in the note that he sent to us. Was something about the fact that, I periodically want an extra bedroom for, rather than being counted as X, Y, Z, so.
Yeah.
well, and
I think you're
can people come and,
spot on.
can people come and then, which again, I'm not saying good or bad, come and then say, okay, now that this is approved, I'm gonna add on my house.
They can draw it.
Okay, yeah.
Sure, I have a guy right now that has a big front porch on his house. He'd like to have more in the back, but the house is pretty much maxed out. If
Right,
this were to go into play, he'd be able to
Like
exempt
move
some
it
of the
around,
front
right,
porch
right.
that he has currently existing and add covered area in his rear because the front porch is not eating up some of his floor area ratio.
So we grandfather too, so
It would apply to all dwellings, but then, that's a flag lot. So then, once you decide that a front porch is a good thing, then you kind of have to decide how you're going to do it. Is it the main front door entrance to a house, which is probably the better way to go, rather than the front lot line? So what if you design your house on a flag lot where the front yard is technically more looking like the backyard? I've had several arguments with people that a front door does not a front yard make.
Yeah.
So, they could game it that way, where they select the front yard and then they get extra covered area over here, and then on the side yard, they get more over there, but where the actual entrance is technically a side yard.
Yeah.
So there are
it's like
ways.
my house kind of, yeah.
Is it possible to just, like you were saying, you could base it on a percentage of the house? Could you just say, let's do that, and then everything is up for discussion on the possibility, depending on what's in front of us?
Absolutely.
So we wouldn't have to be a code, it's just something that's open for
The
discussion.
we
discretion
acknowledge
of the
that.
architectural review board can allow for.
So we would acknowledge that a
But that would
front,
be before the code, I mean, the zoning board and
we'd
the.
acknowledge the front porch can have a beneficial effect to making a house feel period within the village.
Right,
And then they would go and get a variance if it didn't fit within their. So it's sort of like the other building that was trying to move every barn to make the windows move to the old house. They came to get us to say, yes, what you're doing isn't bad, to make it easier to get a variance.
right,
I think that's almost as strong as we should go,
right,
is acknowledge that it can have a beneficial effect and it can,
but not on every
Yeah, so
situation,
if someone to do that and then throw 20 feet of,
right,
of cryptomeria hedges or something, you're never gonna see it.
right,
Um,
yeah.
so,
To help benefit the architectural landscape of our community,
yeah,
something,
Everything has to do though with more, if we're saying what we're saying, we're just saying that you can extend the FAR a little bit, that's kind of what we're saying. Like, but that's the reality, so which is okay, I'm not saying it's not.
FAR and then the added bonus, if you look at it that way, of
Or it
incentivizing.
could be a
front porch.
specific extension to it.
Right, so I guess that's just sort of my point, where I'm trying to come from, like, I think it's a little, I don't know, this is just me, I'm cynical, a little disingenuous to just say, we're just kind of we like the idea of front porches, because that was something that was brought up, because I think what it really is a little more coverage, which again, I don't have any problem with necessarily, but I just, I don't really think it's about front porches and the community and talking to your neighbors, because that's not really the way the land is set up. Like, I was giving an example that my husband's family is at the Jersey Shore, like, you're literally on top of each other's porches and you're talking to each other and you're giving them a drink, like, that's not really happening, it's not that.
certain areas of Sag Main Street is.
It could use it, it could use it. No, it could beautify, and it could, but I'm saying, I don't think that there's a big cry to gather more on a front porch. I think it's more about right? Like, I don't know,
And a
it's
lot
just
of
my,
architecture doesn't lend itself to a quote unquote
That's
front porch.
yes,
Right.
yes.
And if we are open to the suggestion, that is opening, I mean, where are the architectural
Well,
review
yeah.
boards, so it helps,
And you always have the option of saying we like everything the way it is right now.
right? Like, I would love to give Brian the option to say that would be beautiful if they had a porch on the front. I mean, that would change the whole feeling of that house.
That particular house.
Yes.
It would.
It would.
The question is,
No, yeah, I mean, I love that house, but I'm like, I feel like there was just one little thing missing, and then you said that. I'm like, that's
WWSD,
it.
what would Seascape do? You know, they get this information, and they would build some crazy greenhouse. Yeah, like a Dell porch or something, on a porch.
Yeah, I mean, and then on what circumstances are we now putting ourselves in the position of having to deny a porch
Right.
to this poor person who thinks they can have more?
Well, or is a porch part of your back patio?
And that's not a misplaced concern. It's
Like, what if you don't have room for
legislatively,
a
then I
porch
could
in
have
the
this
front?
essentially.
Yeah.
Because of the way your
Then how do we
architecture.
deny it?
Wait, what if you don't have room for a porch because of the way you had to build the house when it was built? With the rules in place, I mean, it's always what happens, but, and then you came and said, well, I want the front porch to really be for the back.
This is an FAR thing, it's
Yeah.
a lot line variance
Right.
potentially also. So
No,
it's-
no, that would make them keep it in setback, don't worry about the
Okay.
setback
But I don't
variances.
think if somebody wanted a porch on their backyard, that's not really what we're even talking about,
But
because
what
it's
about-
really all
what
about.
waterfront? So if you, except for the case of an ocean on said pond, on Poxaboc Pond or other such, the water actually creates your front yard.
Right.
So you could have more covered area towards the pond or towards, towards the water.
I agree with the indoor outdoor, people are much more, using indoor outdoor, but.
I see what you're saying, I
Or
wasn't
feathers,
thinking about it
right?
that way, but you're right, yes.
But is that bad?
No.
No, it's not
Depends
bad.
on who you are.
It's
No,
just
I
another
don't
way to
think
look
so.
at it, yeah.
I don't think it's bad, I just,
Our former mayor would think it's atrocious, a complete hypocrisy of our code and the destruction of the village.
Right.
To have that?
Yes.
Why?
Because Mr. Lockheim, really wanted houses to be much more all except in one hill.
when you think about it, it actually encourages more community,
so
so you're like, you're more outdoors, and I don't know, whatever. Anyway,
I think it does help community.
I mean,
I have a front porch, but it couldn't be covered.
It's another arrow in the quiver of local lawyers too, to get more space.
I love my front porch.
Yeah.
I have nobody to
We could try.
wave to other than Tony, but
I mean, yours is covered, yours is enclosed.
mine's covered, yeah. But I love it, it's wonderful.
Yeah,
I would want more covered space on the back, because I have too much sun, because I can't cover that much. You know what I mean?
I have my historically placed windows, which like to see the front of the road instead of the back.
Okay. Do we have are we supposed to do something?
Well, I just don't know how we write it up
There's no.
for you.
I think we would just acknowledge in sort of, maybe not as far as the code, but acknowledge that some period details would include front porches.
But it's defining what a front porch is. That's.
We don't have- we'll just say it's like-
You don't wanna ever, I
Do
don't
we have
have
a
a porch.
porch?
Very hard to do
We don't have window, we don't have window percentages of like, so.
I don't think so, other than the FAR language saying that an open but unenclosed
Right.
covered area.
Definitely unenclosed. I think for folks who use their side entrance as the main entrance, because that's where the driveway leads and you've got groceries and it's raining, there should be a small percentage that doesn't go to your house that you can cover that part, right? For just getting in the house and waiting with an umbrella while got your keys, right? And then I think in the front area, I do think it's helpful, for the community building, right, to have, and I do think it adds to the charm of the village to be able to have a front porch.
Well, the side entrance one, then at what point, just because you can drive through your front porch, does that make it a porte cochere or something?
That's a pretty big porch.
Yeah.
But no, to have a side entrance, roof over your mudroom I would probably not really consider that because you're talking generally about a pretty small area.
Yeah.
And it's probably no more than 6 feet wide, sticks out no more than 4 feet.
Yeah, which would be fine.
So we're not talking about an
Would have to have a
entry,
post.
we're not talking about an entry, we're talking specifically about a porch.
About an open porch, yes.
Okay.
I mean, we do have more and more designs that have unlockable doors that lead into a locked mudroom area for UPS or whatever to deliver. So
Right.
it's not in the rain and such, it's becoming more common. But that's outside of this purview. This is really just a front porch on a house that we do have a lot of traditional architecture. It does look nice, but Mr. Davis was really specifically looking to get more covered area in the rear of the property. This front porch idea really came more from the trustees to enhance the architecture and community of Saginaw.
Okay, got it.
But based on the fact that he was actually asking for the back.
Yeah,
So it's like kind of like,
But that's where you want it, and that's where I would want it.
yes,
that's where I
And
would
would want
want
mine
too.
screened
but we're
out.
not trying injustice.
No, and I mean, honestly, like,
Right.
in terms of, I don't think we need to accuse ourselves necessarily. I think if it's generally something everybody wants.
I think a front porch would be wonderful to add to the charm of the whole area, you know, and it could open up design options. I mean,
I
Or
think
should that
more
be
than not,
enough to-
people are not gonna
For us
actually.
to say we like it, now go either save some space
right,
or go for a variance with the knowledge that we think this addition actually improves the historical nature of it.
right.
But I feel like that's as much as we want to hog tie ourselves to
I
something.
do too. I don't know. I mean, how is the trustees feeling? Do they want something like this to be in code, or is it can be left
I can't
up?
tell you their personal feelings on it.
I think.
They were sick of talking about it.
You want
I
to-
think I think that the idea was that you guys actually are a lot better than the Luddites of us that sit on the board.
Do you still agree with that after this conversation?
And I did.
I would say, since you got two of them here, two trustees here, that we don't think it's an unreasonable request. We don't wanna lose the checks and balances of certain people taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
all.
Yeah, so how do
And
we?
that's the
the
scary
challenge.
part
Right.
of how that could possibly, because I think that's what we've talked about is like, what are we not thinking that could possibly bite us in the butt in the long run?
Like
Right.
frankly, if there's a 7-bedroom house, like, they don't they could take a bedroom away. I'm just saying, for a covered porch.
Well, as Michael Davis would say, none of my clients would ever trade a bedroom for a porch.
But I mean, they're spending a lot of money on a house and they want what they want. And I think if it is a modest sized porch and if it's gonna change, you know, what Sagaponic is and the feel of it, I would be open to that, you
Which is
know?
to say you get your house and then you get a porch is
Right,
rife with.
right.
Right. That's why I really think it's a bigger issue that maybe could be explored, but I think it's.
I think the overwhelming majority, if you gave more allowance for, say, covered porches.
Yeah.
The overwhelming majority of people would use it for their covered areas in the rear of the house.
Yeah.
Very few would use it as an ornament, which is very much what a front porch is.
I agree, that's what I
On
think.
their house.
That's what I think, and therefore, that's what I've been trying to say, not very eloquently, but I'm okay with that, maybe, I just don't feel like that's what we're being asked to vote or to give a recommendation on, and I think that's what would happen anyway, so I think it's more about accepting that if that is something that everyone wants to explore, we should explore it, but that's really what's being explored here, and actually, that's what Michael Davis really asked for, right? So to revert it to a porch idea doesn't really,
Agreed.
that's how I feel.
So I think then in the recommendation, that could be part of that recommendation that you guys are making, is that it's the rear rather than the front specifically.
Or where somebody wants,
Or
depending on the
whatever-
architecture
whatever you
that's
wanted.
wherever it is most additive to their architecture or whatever, to their lifestyle.
But is our job their lifestyle comfort, or is our job
No, but if
what it looks like and feels like?
our job is what it feels and looks like, but I'm just saying, it would be partially their lifestyle, because if they came and wanted it on the back, not the front, and we liked it architecturally, we'd have to say yes, because it was allowed to be anywhere, right? That's the thing. And that is how people will use it, I think, right? Because it is gonna be, lifestyle could be that you want covered front area, because you do have a lot of packages or visitors, or you don't wanna be, whatever.
Renters drinking beers on the front porch.
That,
What's wrong with renters?
Drinking beer
What's
on the front porch.
We're in the same board.
I mean, you know, my.
I don't like beer either, but
How
how about you feel
Her
us?
fondest memories are sitting when she was 7 years old, whittling wood with her grandfather, her pop-pop, on their front porch in Freeport. He would get up early, she'd get up early, they'd have tea and they'd go out, they would whittle. And it was just a wonderful memory she has, but that's not common.
That's what
I
I'm
love to
saying.
sit on the front porch when it's raining and I can be outside but not be outside. I love it. I love watching the neighbors walk their dogs by, wave hi. I do. I'm from Virginia. I fully believe in it. And that may not be how our community works now. I think it's something we could encourage, when people don't want it. They've got hedges and a gate, and you're too far from the street anyways, and that's not gonna be your thing. But I mean, I do feel like I wanna encourage it. I'm just scared, and I feel like maybe more than just Michael Davis should opine on this.
That's kind of the point
A
I'm
little more
making.
time to think about it.
There's no rush on this.
Well, I
There's no
wonder if I
time
can't
in
call
terms
a
of-
larger meeting with people who might be against it and who might be for it together, instead of just one architect who's fighting for it, that we all don't wanna be, you know, for lack of a better word, mulled over by.
If there was a code change, it gets implemented, and then down the line, you see where there's a specific problem, the code could be amended, correct?
And there will have to be a public meeting when the
When
code is actually amended for local law.
I mean,
I don't know, I
And
see
does
it,
AHRB support of a certain thing that might involve a variance? Doesn't really, it means that you guys can say yes and makes it happen, but doesn't sway your opinion on the matter.
When it comes to the ZBA?
Yeah.
No, it's nice to know that the ARB is in favor of what the applicant is asking for, but it is by no means a determining factor.
Yeah.
the house to have.
We could just to be continued.
I know, I just feel like we keep doing that, but I do think we're making progress.
From a design standpoint, at least the merits of.
Wouldn't you? I think that would offset.
I think I would wanna understand a little bit more
Windows and all
why we
that.
are where we are in terms of the numbers. And
Well, the
would
roof
increasing them, you know, be additive and also still keep us within maybe our own framework that Sagaponic holds versus Bridgehampton or whatever, right? I think that there's something, I don't know, to me, it just feels like a bigger and a worthwhile one, but a bigger exercise, not us just saying architecturally that a porch is a nice idea, you know, it just, I
It
don't
could be
know.
if the porch has a visual impact on public spaces, because essentially we're trying to make it so it does have a positive impact on the historic nature or the
I just think it's
congenial
not,
nature of the village.
there'll be so much bullshitting around with what a porch
Well, that's
is.
the thing, you'll get
And
someone
that's why I
20
just think it
mile
has to
driveway.
end up being just that you can have more covered area by a certain amount. And we can encourage it through architecture and design to be right, and not to be
I mean,
offensive,
there's a
but
whole
I,
cottage industry and pergolas with magical louvers that turn into.
Those are not pergolas by our code, so when I do run into them, they must go.
But it shows you that people, there's always an enterprising
Oh, this.
Shark Tank kind of.
Someone is, like, listen, what is it, figures don't lie, but liars figure? So, but I mean, with, oh, choose, what was I about to say? I forgot.
Or can it just
Oh, with
be
the
what's
floor, with our
visible
floor over
to
ratio code as
the
it is
road?
now, we have two columns, one for principal and then one for roofed accessory structure. You gotta
Right.
understand that the original code was only for the principal dwelling, and that included all your porches and everything.
right,
The roofed accessory structure, 15%, was a compromise
right.
with the residents in the village and the board members that were voting on the original zoning code. So that was, so the 15% was already a compromise that was made to allow you to have more stuff and not really lose your house. So you could look at increasing the roofed accessory structure allowance from 15% to 20%. You could say it's only for a porch near your front door, the actual front door to a house, not your side door, not your front yard.
Sorry, can you repeat yourself? Right now, there's already a 15%.
Yes, so based on lot size, there's a formula that says this is how many square feet you can have on the roof. And that's for your principal dwelling.
Above grade,
Or
under.
the way that I get the Luddites to understand it, it's where you heat and put your feet in the winter time.
No, but just so
What's
clear,
the
that's
15%
above
that
grade.
you're talking
That's
about?
above grade first and second floor.
And then, right, and then there's 15% of that,
And whatever that number is, there's another
15% you
15%.
can use as
as porches,
Additional-
pool house.
Right, exactly.
Shed, potting shed, anything.
So that is what this is.
Right,
Yes.
so to me, that's exactly what I'm trying to get at, so to me, what you're really talking about is it
Everybody
15
uses
to
the
18, is it
15%
15 to 20?
maximum.
But to start saying it's a porch,
Almost
and you can
without
allow a
exception, they
porch,
have
is gonna be like a nightmare.
So it's already.
That's what I feel like.
It's already there,
No.
but here's my question.
A
How-
smart builder will leave someone 500-600 square feet to do an addition, so they get more work in the future and people can make things their own. But most go for the biggest number they can.
Yeah, and how many people come and have a variance, ask for a variance on top of that?
The floor area ratio, it's highly discouraged. I usually am able to keep a lot of that out unless you have special circumstances.
Like
You are
historical
going for
structures.
historical preservation. We have one in the courts right now that's looking for an accommodation for more space because they have handicapped people in the house that need more room for therapy, equipment, wider hallways, or whatever it is. So we do have people that are asking to go over the floor area ratio, but it's generally, anybody that's walking in my office that says, I just want a bigger house, well, this variance is for, and I can't, not and I want. And you're welcome to go to the ZBA, but I really wouldn't expect
Can't
them to say
guarantee
yes.
anything, can't guarantee that, yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, I think adding more than, we're not gonna recommend more than 15% on top of the 15% that already is allowed for that. Okay.
But I think, I don't know.
To me, that's what it comes down to, that's the way I look at it, it's either increasing the 15%, which again, I don't really have an opinion on right now, because I'd wanna actually study it more. And is that something that we should do, and is that something that would, enhance, everything potentially, and should it be 18%, whatever.
And it's interesting, because you guys are going the opposite way of every other single board right now. Right now, East Hampton they've already, several years ago, reduced the amount that you can build, and they're actually looking at reducing it again.
But our percentage of above grade
Sorry,
build
no.
is conservative,
Right now,
compared.
right now, we're pretty much in line with East Hampton, which the town is looking at dropping again.
We are, see, I wanna
We
look
have
at
bigger,
that.
Yeah.
a lot of bigger lots here though.
Right, so maybe that's what it is.
Is that what it is?
We're definitely though,
When
How
I
do
look
we
at it, I
compare
look
to
at it as
Bridgehampton?
percentages. And the percentages that we allow for under roof on our lots is about the same percentages that town of East Hampton starts with a base number of square feet, and then a percentage of your lot area that you can do. It comes very close in most circumstances.
what about South?
Southampton,
Because we used to be South, I mean, I'm just
yeah, a bunch
curious.
of, Southampton really has not played with their gross floor area codes in a very long time. The last things that they did is they disallowed dewatering and a few other things like that. But they're still pretty friendly towards larger homes like we are.
I didn't realize we were friendly.
I don't think, yeah,
In comparison to a lot of places we are.
What is there, is
Like
there
what
a
places, though?
percentage number that you have?
Well, no, I mean, we allow people to build out larger than their first floor, under their porches, under their garages for finished space.
oh, sorry, I was talking about,
Well, I mean, that's one area.
that's the 15% part.
No, that's nothing, that's all
Oh,
below grade, like
okay.
East Hampton has just done away with that as well, you have
Got
to
it.
stay within. Village of East Hampton put that into place, they called it the iceberg law, because where the bottom of the iceberg can't be bigger than the top. But they bought themselves a new mayor, oh, I shouldn't say that, they got a new mayor in office, and he did away with the iceberg law. Southampton is toying around with that idea, I know, but they haven't done it yet.
So what's the, okay, I'm curious about like now the percentages, main versus accessory, or I think I need a little,
Sure, I can walk you through the formulas.
that'd be awesome. Not just, I mean, I have a more of a sense of how much you could build like per half acre or acre in Sagaponic above grade, I kind of know that sort of, but I'm thinking about it now, it's really interesting versus the other areas, just to, and obviously Sag Harbor is probably different, right? I mean, Sag Harbor tends to have also smaller lots,
But
well, just
Sag
in the
Harbor
town.
also has different districts, they have the historic district, they have out of the historic district. Then there are some places which you think of Sag Harbor, but are actually controlled by either town of East Hampton or town of Southampton. So there are many different formulas in Sag Harbor, that's a horse of another color.
And North Haven is actually a village unto itself.
Yeah.
Everyone
And
thinks it's
North Haven is
Sag Harbor.
where the floor area ratio code came from, and they do not have the 15%.
Really? That's okay.
That was where Tony Towhill first implemented it.
I did
I
not
got a
know
house,
that.
I got a house in to build just under the wire.
Did not know that.
Yep, I had to get one of you lawyers in order to get my building permit because they kept stalling me because the law wasn't in place yet.
Well, I think it's helpful to understand all the different codes anyway, I mean, just helpful to us too, so thank you.
Anytime, listen, I'm here 3 days a week, phone is always working. And you can always stop in, anyone can stop in to ask questions, to go over stuff, if you have specific questions, it's easier to send me an email so I can prepare a little bit, and please take advantage of it. These two gentlemen certainly have the first two trustees that ever asked me to drive around the village and give them a tour and see what's going on.
What percentage of the houses in Sagaponic have front porches right now? Or, you know,
Two, and a lot of them are older.
see, that was
My
my
instinct.
historic one.
I mean, when we drew my father's house on Springy Banks Road, it wasn't drawn with the front porch originally, and it just had this big flat face to it. My father was playing around with window design and putting a hip over here or this or that, and I said, Dad, you're missing the whole point. Do this, and as soon as we drew the front porch on the house, it was perfect. But again, it never got used other than to hold some plants.
But it still looked beautiful.
It was, it
And
really is
even if it
a
never
house.
gets used, it's an architectural
Yeah.
asset, yes,
I mean, I have a front porch on my house, and I have, white Adirondack chairs on it.
right.
My wife sits out there with coffee and one of our dogs every now and then, but I never use my front porch. It's an
Yeah.
ornament for me. I primarily use it for Christmas decorations. I do the
Right.
drapery and around the columns.
But it's pretty, to drive down the street and see
Yeah,
that.
and it breaks the
So,
monotony of.
yeah.
of-
Yeah. I'm not opposed to it. It just depends on what it's used for.
Flip-flops on the front.
If it's giving curb appeal or if it's helping the history of Sagaponic, I'm for it.
But I think that then that's a very different,
You
that's a
can't be-
different proposal.
And as a lawyer would tell you, you cannot be arbitrary and capricious. You must apply the law equally.
Right, so in conclusion, I feel very strongly, clearly,
Well,
that
then
just coming
maybe
from a
we could
development
say
background
for
like
the
that.
Sagaponic, the historic district then.
You either have to make it right, very, very specific to that, but then that's not what we were really being asked about, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think just knowing it's an element that can get a house across the finish line is enough.
Right.
From an Ahrb standpoint.
One of the ways that people can hang out on their front porch and it would be bad.
Loud, obnoxious.
Naked.
Well, it depends.
I have to shower public, in my driveway.
Beer drinking.
Yeah, drunk and naked.
Yeah, that's.
Did I move back to Alabama?
Is it another place to put a bunch of junk, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, when the wainscot went, well, it's now called the Sagaponic Inn or just the Sagaponic. When I brought to you the idea that they might be looking for a variance to put a front porch on it, one of the first comments from this board was, oh, great place for towels and surfboards.
Yep. And vans and boats.
maybe we need a little more time, but,
Yeah.
thinking about.
Just remember, you don't have to limit your front porch to beer drinking. I mean, you can have margaritas and wine.
That's why I said tequila, okay, fine.
Once we close this out, I do wanna, just wanna,
Committee of two.
Okay, who wants to, this is a risk, this is.
I think,
I will be in absentia, but I can do it, but I
Right.
won't be around here
Yeah, I
again.
don't think you need to be though, I think you just know what the thing.
Do we feel, given that we just saw,
I'll do it with you, Tony.
Okay.
You'll do it with me.
given that we just saw, what was it? I guess the Fairfield Pond Lane, that one being approved, does that make us wanna revisit?
no, and I do wanna make a comment about that, because we talked a lot about this
Are we still on
house.
the record?
Okay,
Do you want to be on the record?
The committee of two will be Alicia and Tony. And I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Second? Second. All in favor?
I,